If you are currently struggling with anorexia or bulimia, or maybe even the beginnings of an eating disorder, chances are you have food rules. And food rules are not conducive to eating disorder recovery. First, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie. I'm Long Island's eating disorder specialist. I post on this channel 3 times a week, all about eating disorders, body image issues, and general mental health. So if any of that interests you, please click the subscribe button down below. I also have a blog, a weekly blog, and an Instagram. If you're interested in checking those out, I will leave those links in the description below. Feel free to do so. And of course, if you liked this video or found it helpful or inspirational at the end, I would greatly appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, because that helps other people to find my channel and perhaps, hopefully, help them as well. Let's start by defining exactly what food rules mean. So food rules are typically the structure that you tend to follow, and it might be conscious at some point, it probably was, and it might be unconscious. And when you break these rules or even think about breaking these rules, it tends to bring up a lot of food anxiety, a lot of anxiety in general. And if you do break the rules, it tends to bring up a lot of food guilt. These are key feelings that you will probably experience if you are breaking the rules, or again, as I said, just thinking about breaking the rules. There will likely be a lot of fear foods that make the list of food rules, that you cannot eat this, and this in the same day, those types of things. So let's get on into it. First and foremost in challenging these food rules is you need to identify what these rules are. What rules have you set for yourself? And more often than not, when you are further along in your eating disorder, the rules just become more restrictive and more just numerous. There's many rules that you tend to have. So this might be an ever-growing list if you are currently in your eating disorder, and you might really realize that there's a lot of other rules that you haven't put down or that have developed over time. So it's really important to open up your journal, sit tight, and really just think about these types of things. What brings up food anxiety? If I were to tell you right now to do a certain thing and that brings up food anxiety, food guilt, and possibly just fear, that is going to be more than likely associated with a food rule. In the pursuit of figuring out exactly what these food rules are, I would definitely recommend taking a few days and just bringing your journal with you throughout the day, and notice the thoughts that pop up. When you're in front of the cabinet and trying to figure out what you're eating, what are the thoughts that are popping up that are saying you can't do this, you can't do that, you only can do this, no you can't do that, and those types of things. What is coming up? Those are food rules. Write all of those rules down. Every single one of them, because it's a handy master list so that you know exactly what it is that you need to tackle. If you're not really sure if it's a food rule or not, look for some keywords such as should, shouldn't. Does it lead you to say no to yourself? If you were to do this thing, would it lead to food guilt and food anxiety? If so, that is a food rule. The next part, of course, is planning to challenge these food rules. So usually it's not going to be something that you can do spontaneously. I'm not saying that you can't, but it's really important to make a set structure for challenging these food rules. And what's important is that once you do challenge these rules, you want to continue exposing yourself to it. And I know that sounds super overwhelming. I'm going to help you to develop a plan in order to challenge these food rules and fear foods and all of that. So what we're going to do with that list that you had created, either make copies of it, or if you don't mind, doodling in the list itself, I would definitely recommend doing it with a pencil, ranking in some way what is a more intense fear and what is a little less of an intense fear. And that's not something that needs to be absolutely perfect, so be friendly to yourself when you're doing that. Just trying to get a gauge of what is more fearful. It tends to be that the ones that have started with you early on in your eating disorder tends to be even more fearful and intense than the ones that are more recent to develop, tend to be a little bit more easy or easier to challenge. So once you have that ranking system, now pick just one thing that seems a little bit more tackleable to you. And that is going to be your challenge for the week. A lot of people have a food rule. For instance, they can't have source of carbs more than one time in a day. And let's just take that for a moment. So that is one of the food rules that you have, and you want to challenge it. So how do you do that? So more than likely you're having about one source of carbs for the day. And of course, it's not really ideal. So the next week, what you're going to do is maybe pick 2 or 3 of the days that you're going to challenge that, at least one day. If it's really too much for you, at least pick one day, and then you can graduate that, that plan. So one day where you're going to have a carb source for 2 meals of the day. And that is something that will start you off, and it's a matter of building upon that. This is going to be a process. So you're going to start off by challenging yourself, but what's really, really important is continuing to challenge that food rule. Don't just challenge it once and let it sit to the side. Work on graduating this plan higher and exposing yourself more. So the next week, maybe you want to do it 2 days a week or 3 days a week, or maybe even one day pick 3 times that you're going to have a carb source, graduating in it. And if you want to challenge yourself and it's not according to the plan, absolutely go ahead and do it. This is just some structure to get you going. And of course, what I would recommend is no more than 1 or 2 weeks without challenging another of one of those food rules. So when you're challenging, picking the next food rules to challenge, make sure that you're continuing to challenge the first food rule that you were beginning to challenge, because you don't want to just let it go to the side and then all of a sudden it becomes fearful for you again. You don't want to go through that again. So make sure that you're continuing to challenge yourself with the carbs for that instance, alongside the new challenge that you're creating for yourself. And I would definitely encourage you to keep a record of it. It's absolutely amazing when you can see how much you've progressed, and also when you notice that there are some times that you're able to complete or challenge a food rule and not have all that anxiety and food guilt come up. And looking back next time that maybe you are experiencing a bit of anxiety about challenging a new food rule, you could just really reality check yourself and be like, well, it wasn't really that bad that time. I could do it again. As always, be forgiving toward yourself. This is not something that is meant to be another source for you to break yourself down over. Be forgiving to yourself. Be patient toward yourself. This is going to take time. I know it could be a frustrating process, but you can absolutely do it. Make sure that in this process, you're filling yourself up and consuming all this pro-recovery type of content to keep you, just moving along and motivated in recovery. And of course, I'm hoping that you're seeing an eating disorder therapist as well. I hope that you found this video helpful. Of course, if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below about which food rule you are going to choose to challenge this week. You can click my face over here to subscribe to my channel, and I wish you freedom from food rules on your journey to finding your state of balance. I will see you in my next video.